Hi, welcome to my video on review number 2 on sequence and series. This review is on the videos number 10 to 19, and the questions on this review are done in the order of the videos. And again, my review is done as a quiz that you can score a mark for and see how well you know it. Or, if you think about it, you can use my review as, do I know the topic of series and sequence? If you don't, then go back and review my videos. And this review is out of 40, and you get the total on each page, and then add them all up and put it over 40 and convert it to a percent. So let's treat it as a how well do you know? If you reviewed all of my videos or you didn't. Here we go. Find the level 2 difference of Tn equals negative 4n squared plus 3n minus 7. And I know, or we developed in my videos, that this is a quadratic, so it's d2 because it's level n squared. d2 is equal to 2a. Remember that in a arithmetic, d1 is equal to a or 1a. So a, this equation is Tn equals a n squared plus bn plus c. So a is equal to negative 4. So d2 equals 2 times negative 4, which is d2 is negative 8. So if you have a negative 8, put the 1 there. That's the fastest way to do it. And the other way is to work out the terms and then do the d2 difference, and you will get negative 8, but that's a longer way to do it. Number 2, we have a sequence of 3, 5, 15, 33, and find Tn equals an squared plus bn plus c. Notice this is a quadratic. This is a sequence of level 2, so it's a level 2 difference. So we can do several ways, but the easiest way again is get your level 2 difference. 5 minus 3 is 2. 15 minus 5 is 10. 33 minus 15 is 18. And that's D1. So D2, 10 minus 2 is 8. 18 minus 10 is 8. So D2 is equal to 8. And if D2 is equal to 8, I know, or we learned in the previous, D2 equals 2a. Therefore, 2a equals 8. Divide by 2, and a equals 4. So what we'll do, we'll write down the equation. Tn is a n squared plus bn plus c. So Tn, a is 4, so let's put 4 into this equation, 4n, and we have already very quickly found one of the a, b, and c terms, coefficients of this trinomial. So now let's take this equation. So if we call this equation number 1, and we call this equation number 2, so let's take this right here. This is a 1. So if I look at n and Tn in relation to this is 1 and this is T1. So we have a 1. When n is 1, Tn is 3. So if we take this information, n is 1 and Tn is 3, and plug it into number 2, so we sub n equals 1 and n equals 3 into 2. Here's what we'll get. We'll get 3 equals 4n squared plus, n is 1 now, so I have to put, be careful, I have to put a 1 into place of n. So n is 1 and Tn is 3, so 3 equals 1 squared is 1. 1 times 4 is 4. B times 1 is B plus C. So we have, if we leave, we can bring it over and make it negative, or we can leave the B and the C on the right side and move the 4 over and make it negative. So I get negative 1 equals B plus C. So I can flip that around because it's symmetrical. So B plus 1 equals C, and we'll call this equation 3. So subbing in the point n is 1 and Tn is 3 into equation 2 allows us to get an equation in terms of B and C. Now we have another point of n and Tn, make that an n. So this is n is 2 and Tn is T2. N is 2, so T2 is 5. So this is the point 2, 5. 2, 5. So if we sub n is 2 and Tn is 5 into number 2. So let's sub those two into number 2. So Tn is 5 right here equals 4. N is 2. So we're putting 2 in place of n. B, n is 2 plus C. So notice we have to solve this out. So we got a B and a C again. Remember, we found what A was. So now we got to find what B and C is. So I'm setting up two equations in terms of B and C. So 5 equals 2 squared is 4. 4 times 4 is 16 plus 2B plus C. And again, leave the B plus C where it is without making them negatives. We get 5 minus 16. So 2B plus C is negative 11. And flip it right around. 2B plus C equals a negative 11. And call this number 4. Now I'm going to take these two equations. B plus C equals negative 1. And 2B plus C equals negative 11. Put them below each other, and I'm going to eliminate the C. So I'm going to multiply this one by negative 1 and multiply this equation by 1. So that gives us negative 1 times B, negative B. Negative 1 times C, negative C. Negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. Multiplying by 1 doesn't change the equation, so you get 2B plus C equals negative 11. Because the C's are opposite of each other, I cancel them out, and negative 1 and negative 1B and 2B is B equals negative 10. Now that I have B equals negative 10, I'm going to sub B equals negative 10 into. So if I sub it into number, I can sub it into number. If I take B equals negative 10, put it here, I'll get what C is. Or I can put it into number 4. Put B in here for negative 10 and get C. So either one will do. So I'm going to put it into number 3. So B plus C equals negative 1. B is negative 10, so negative 10 plus C equals negative 1. C equals negative 1 plus 10. C equals 9. Now I have A, which is A, which is 4, B, which is negative 10, C, which is 9. So I can sub, I have this equation, so I can sub B and C into number 2, or I can sub A, B, and C into number 1. So it don't make any difference. So you can sub B equals negative 10, C equals 9 into number 2. So when I do, I get Tn equals, I already got A, 4n squared. B is negative 10, so it's a negative 10n. C is 9. So there's the equation that represents this sequence. And again, it's a quadratic sequence, again, because of the D2 difference. And there's the equation. And if you're given marks out, I would give, if you get a mark for A is 4, And then if you sub it into the equation, I give a mark for there. That makes it easier to do. And if you come up with this equation, then I would give a mark. If you come up with this equation, I give a mark. If you got B is -10, I give a mark. C is 9, I give a mark. And then if you put it all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, if you put them all in this and come up with this equation, you get 7. Total of 8 for that page. So it took a while to solve that. Now, I just want to go back and remind you, if you did not know that D2 was 2A and work this out with a level 2 difference, you would have to take these three, right? You would have to go with 1, n is 1, Tn is 3, and plug it into this equation and get an equation with A, B, and C. Then you would have to take this, n is 2, Tn is 5, and take this one and plug it in here and get another equation with A, B, and C. And then you take this is 3 and Tn is 15 and plug these two in this equation and get another equation with A, B, and C. And then you would have to take the three equations and eliminate one of the variables twice to get an equation with two variables, and then you're back to here. But if you did not know this, you would have to solve a system of three variables, and that takes a while. But we're here to make it easier, and whatever way you want to do it. A geometric sequence has a constant blank between two successive terms, a constant ratio. A geometric sequence has a constant ratio between successive terms. As we say R, find the ratio between successive terms. So R is 10 divided by 2, which is 5. So R is the third term divided by the second, 50 divided by 10, which is 5. So the ratio is 5. Give yourself a mark. So if you put ratio there, you give yourself a mark. If you put 5 here, you give yourself a mark. Number 5, which sequence is geometric? And a geometric involves a ratio. So we have to do a ratio. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 9 divided by 6 won't do it. So 9 divided by 6 is 3 over 2. 6 divided by 3 is 2. No, not the same. Divide here. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 divided by 6 is, 2 is a common factor, so it's 5 over 3. So no, it's not geometric. And 4 divided by 8 is 1/2. 2 divided by 4 is 1/2. 1 divided by 2 is 1/2. Yes, it's geometric because it has the same ratio of 1/2. And try this one. 3 divided by 1 is 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 18 divided by 9 is 2. No, because the ratios, even though the first two is a 3 and a 3, the third one is not. The ratio is 2, so it's not geometric. So the answer is C. Give yourself a mark. And what's the formula for a geometric sequence? Tn equals, it's T1. R is the ratio, raised to the n minus 1. That's the formula for when you want to get the equation of any geometric sequence. Give yourself a mark. Find the terms of the geometric sequence. So we got x's here. So a geometric sequence has a ratio. So let's do some ratios. So x divided by x minus 2. So that's the second divided by the first. This one here is the third divided by the second. So second divided by the first is here. Third divided by the second is here. So there's a constant ratio, so these two ratios are equal. So cross multiply, because I have two ratios equal. X times x equals x minus 2 times x plus 4. You cross multiply. And when you do, you get x squared. And I'm going to do FOIL on this. First, outside, inside, last. X times x, x squared. X times 4 is 4x. Negative 2 times x, negative 2x. Negative 2 times 4, negative 8. And we simplify. X squared equals x squared plus 2x minus 8. And the x squareds cancels out, so that gives me a 0 there. So we have a negative 2x moved to the left equals negative 8. And bring it up here. So negative 2x divided by negative 2, negative 8 divided by negative 2, x is 4. So x is 4 because it's a geometric sequence. Now we put 4 in here. So we have 4 minus 2 is 2. X is 4, so that's a 4. X is 4, so 4 plus 4 is 8. So that's your geometric sequence. And if you look, if you take the second divided by the first, you get a 2. You take the third and divide by the second, you get a 2. So the ratios are 2. And you have 3 marks. So if you did your ratios, you get a mark. If you have if you have 4, you get a mark. And if you did your terms, you get a mark, 3 marks altogether. Number 8, find S3 if Tn is 7n minus 4. So the S3 means the sum of the first 3 terms. So let's get the first term, T1. So let's get what T1 is. So 7 minus 4, 7 times 1, minus 4 is 3. T2, 7 times 2 minus 4. 14 minus 4 is 10. T3, 7 times 3 minus 4. So notice we're putting 1 in, working it out. T2, we're putting 2 into place of n, we're working it out. T3, we're putting 3 into place of n, so 21 minus 4 is 17. So S3 is 3 plus 10 plus 17, so that makes it 30. And if you got all your terms, you get a mark. If you get your sum, you get a mark, so 2 marks. Total of your page, hopefully you'll have a good mark, like 9. Everything is, and you understand what you're doing when you're doing sequence and series. And number 9, we have a arithmetic sequence, has T1 of 6 and a common difference of 3. Find your sums. Well, there's 2 ways you can do this. Your first term is 6. So what you can do, the common difference is 3, so you got to add on 3 is 9. Add on 3 again, you get 12. Add on 3 again, because your common difference is 3, you get 15. And when you add all those up, you get 15, 15, 30, you get a 42. Or there's another way that you can do the sum, is that Sn is n over 2 by T1 plus Tn. So if you did it this way and got 42, then you get your 2 marks. If you do it this way by the formula, n, s, this is find S4, so n is 4. And T1 is 6. But what happens? We don't have the 15. So if you worked out the equation, because this is, if you said Tn was T1 plus n minus 1d, in order to do this, you got to get the 4th term. So you got to do some extra work. So you got a 6 and n minus 1, and d is 3. So that's 6 plus 3n minus 3. So that's 3n plus 3. So that means that the 4th term is 3, 4 plus 3. That's 12 plus 3, which is 15. So if you did it with this formula, you would have to get the 15th term to work this formula out. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 plus 15 is 21. That would give you 42. So in this case, because there's only 4 terms, it's quicker to do it this way and add them up to get 42. Other than that, you would have to go through this formula, but in order to use this formula, you need an n, you need T1 and Tn. To get the Tn, You already got n, but to get the tn, you got to do this first to get the equation that represents the tn term, to put the 4 in to get the 15. So it's much, again, quicker to do it this way as with the formula. And if there's 2 marks, if you get it right, you got, if you have it this way, then the 2 marks is split between working it out this way. But if you, again, this is the quicker way. State the formula for the sum of an arithmetic sequence. The sum of an arithmetic sequence, sum is Sn, is n2 all over t1 plus tn. That's the formula for an arithmetic sequence. If you wrote that down, give yourself 1. And now we want number 11. Tn is 2n plus 3. Find S, the sum of the first 40 terms. So now this one is, you want the 40 terms. So Sn 40 terms. If I had to go and work them all out individually, like up here, then I would have to do that 40 times and add them all up. So let's look at the formula. Sn is n over 2 t1 plus tn. And 40, n is 40. T1, well, let's get what T1 is. So T1 is negative 2, 1 plus 3, negative 2 plus 3. T1 is 1. Now, we want the 40th term. So T40 is negative 2, n is 40. So that's the 40th term. Negative 80 plus 3 is negative 77. And now we put negative 77 in here. So that gives us a 20 and a negative 76. 20 times negative 76 with a calculator is 1520 negative. Again, you would not want to work this out 40 times. It's quicker to use this formula. So to get this formula, we have the equation here, so we can get the T1 term, worked it out. We get the 40th term, worked it out, and then plug it in here. And there's 4 marks. So if you have T1 is 1, if you have T40 is 77, and if you n is 40, so if you plugged it all in here and came up with this answer, 2 more marks, 4 total. And number 12, find the sum of this sequence. So to get the sum, let's work the sum form. The sum of all these terms is n. It's, let's see, we have to look at it and say 15 divided by 12 is 3. 18 divided by 15 is 3. So the D1 difference is 3. So that means it's arithmetic. So if it's, because it's arithmetic, then we have n divided by 2 is T1 plus Tn. Make that an n. So we have T1, which is 12. We have the last term, which is 309. But we don't know what n is. So we have to go and work out the equation. What is n? So we have to go and say Tn is T1 plus n minus 1d. So we have a 12. N minus 1 difference is 3. 12 plus 3n minus 3. 3n plus 9 is the equation. So we have all of this, but we need the n. So that means that this is, whatever it is, this is the Tn term. So that means that 309 is equal to 3n minus 9. So 3n equals 309 minus 9. 3n equals 300. Divide by 3. So n is equal to 100. Notice I didn't move it over to make a negative. I just left the 3n there, moved the 9 over, and I got 100. So n is 100. And this is the 100 term. So this is the sum of the 100 term because n is 100. So that's 50. And that's, if you add that up, you will get 321. So 50 times 321 is 16,050. 16050 with your calculator. And you got 4 marks. So if you have your equation, you get your difference. And you got your difference. You got your equation, which is right here. And you plugged it in to get the n. And then if you worked it all out, you get here. So there's your 4 marks. You had to discover that it was a difference of the level 1 difference is 3. That's important because then you're able to use this equation. So there's the 4 marks assigned. Total of your page is out of 11. And let's continue with the review. State the formula for the sum of a geometric series. Geometric series has a ratio. So the formula is for the sum, Sn is T1, and it's the ratio to the nth power minus 1 divided by r minus 1. That's the equation. If you have the equation written down and you got to memorize, I memorize the equations and keep using them over and over and over and try not to forget them. You have to memorize them. And you give yourself a mark if you have this equation right. Now we got to find the sum of these terms, but these are only 4 terms. We got 9. If you want, you can notice this is a ratio. If notice that we don't, let's pretend you're looking at this, well, we are looking at it from the beginning. So I got to see if this is a difference or a ratio. So what's 6 divided by 3? That's a 2. What's 12 divided by 6 is a 2. And 24 divided by 12 is a 2. So we have a ratio of 2, which means we have a geometry. We have S9, so that means n is 9. So that means we have the sum, Sn, is T1 r to the n minus 1 r to the n subtract 1. You got to be careful. The n is not n minus 1, it's r to the n subtract 1 over r minus 1. So T1, there it is right there, 3. The ratio we found is 2. And n is 9 minus subtract 1 all over. The ratio is 2 minus 1. So that's 3. 2 to the 9 is 512 minus 1 over 2 minus 1, which is 1. So that becomes 3 and 1,000, or 512, not 1,000, right, 1,000. 512 subtract 1 is 511, and it's over 1. So that, when you multiply with a calculator, gives you 1,533, 1,533. And again, if you just got a ratio and you know this is the formula and you filled it in, you worked it out, there's your 3 marks, total of 3. Number 15. A doctor prescribes 800 milligrams of medication on the first day of treatment. The dosage is half on successive days for 1 week. What is the total amount of medication administered? So notice on the first day, so we have 1 week. So 1 week is 7 days. So that's important to recognize that. And we notice that it started out that the first term is 800. That's the initial amount. So if you think about it, you could say, I got 800 on the first day, half of that is 400, and half of that is 200, half of that is 100, half is 50, half is 25, half is 12.5, and a half, keep going, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7. So if we took a calculator and added all those up, you would get the amount of medication that was given to the person. Or you could say, well, let's see, I have that. So let's see, try it another way. I could do it this way, but if this was a long one, like 20, 40, 50 terms, then it would be long to do it and long to add it up. So how about if we do Sn is T1 R to the n minus, subtract 1, all over R minus 1. So we know that n is 7, so this is for 7 days. So T1 is 800. The ratio, what is the ratio? Well, we're doing a half, so it's 400. We're taking a half, so 400 divided by 8 is a half. 200 divided by 400 is a half. Or we're given half the dosage, so the ratio is 2. So, sorry, ratio is a half. So it's a half, and n is 7 days minus 1. So we get a big bracket for that so we won't get mixed up. The ratio is a half, so it's a half minus 1. So that is 800. And a half to the 7, again, you could work out a half to the 7 to be 1 over 128 minus 1. So 1 half to the 7, you can take 2 to the 7 and get 128, and that's a half minus 1, and that's a negative a half. So let's work out this one right here. So 1 over 128 minus 1 is 1 over 128 minus 128 over 128. So that gives me a negative 127 over 128. So that's 800. And it's a negative 127 over 128. And we're dividing by a half. So let's move that up here. 800. And we got a negative 127 over 128. And we're dividing by a half, so we're multiplied by negative 2. So we could have plugged this into a calculator, but you had to plug it into a calculator correctly. So let's go negative times a negative is a positive. I'm using the pencil to work this out. So 2 into 128 is 64. And if we divide 8 into 100, 8 into 800 gives me 100. 8 into 64 gives me 8. And I see a 4 here. So 4 into 8 goes 2. 4 into 100 goes 25. So what I have, if you see it, I have a 25 times 127 divided by 2. Work that out with your calculator. You could go 2 into 25 is 12 and a half times 127, and that will give you 1587.5 milligrams. It's the total milligrams of medication administered. And again, you have 3 marks. So if you have the ratio is a half, you subbed it into formula, and you have this formula here, and you worked it out, which is complicated to do, but there's your 3 marks and a total of 7 for the page. So be careful when you use a calculator. So that's why I worked this out slowly using the fractions to make it easier to do. Because if you plug it into calculator, you're going to use your calculator correctly. And the next one, find the value of, this is called sigma notation on this binomial here. So k is 1. Oh, I got a k, huh? I put an n there. So I used to put an n. This is k. So instead of n's, I got to have k's. Sorry about that. A little mistake there. Wrote it down, fixed it. And there's a k. Because that's a k, this is a k and not n's. So we got, when k is 1, we have negative 4, 1 squared plus 6 times 1. So that's when k is 1 plus, this is k is 2, negative 4, 2 squared plus 6 times 2, and k is 3. So 1, 2, and 3. So I'm working it out 3 times. So here comes the 3, subbing the 3 in. Just got to be careful. So I put a 1 in. Let's check. 1, K is 1. Put a 1 in, put a 1 in. Perfect. Put a 2 in. 2, 2. And put a 3 in. 3, 3. Negative 4, 6. Perfect. Negative 4, 6. Negative 4. So I have to work all this out. So we just take our time and go through. So we got 1 squared is 1. So that's a negative 4 plus 6. So that's 2. Take this one. Take our time. We got 2 squared is 4. Negative 16 plus 2 sixes are 12. So that gives us negative 4. And the last one is 9. We square first to get a 9. So that's negative 36 plus 18. So that ends up to be negative 18. And if you add that up, you get a negative 20. So these brackets are not necessary here at the end, but they do add up. So there's 4 marks, 1 for each of these, and 1 for the final answer. And there's one more left to do to complete the review on sequence and series. Write the series 6, 11, 16, 21 for the 12 terms using this sigma notation. So we got 12 terms. So the sigma notation is like this. We got K1, and this is the final, but we need the expression. So we have to get the expression that represents the sequence. So you notice that we have 11 minus 6 is 5. 16 minus 11 is 5. 21 minus 16 is 5. So that's a D1 is 5. And our first term is 6. So because it's arithmetic, then Tn is T1 plus n minus 1 times D. So the first term is 6. N minus 1 times the difference is 5. So 6, 5 times n is 5n. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. So that gives me 5n plus 1. So Tn is 5n plus 1. Now let's check. T1, put a 1 in. 5 times 1 is 5. Minus 5 plus 1 is 6. Put a T2, 2 in. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 1 is 11. And just try one more. T3, put 3 in. 5 times 3 is 15 plus 1 is 16. So this is the right equation. So, and this is how many? 12 terms. So we have 12 terms, so n is 12. So our sigma notation, K equals 1. We got 12 terms, and it's 5K plus 1. Not an n, because we're dealing with K here. Instead of going 5n plus 1, we go 5K plus 1. So if you fill all these out, you would get all these terms going through here. And it didn't say. It said write the series in sigma notation. So there's a sigma notation that represents this series up to 12 terms. And there's just 1 mark for this right here. Do all that for 1 mark and add up is at a 5. Now that you have it completed, so what you do, you add up all your pages and get the total in the bottom, put it over 40, divide your denominator into your numerator, get a decimal, move your decimal 2 places to the right to get a percent. And hopefully your unit on sequence series came out to be okay. You understand the videos that I did. And hopefully you enjoyed the sequence series. Hope you've learned more. And if you did, click on my like button, subscribe button, visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. That's the content on my YouTube channel called Math Fully Explained. Thank you for viewing my video. Bye-bye.